Hi, this is Leslie Smith with Property Quest Realty. Today I want to talk about some things that new agents may find beneficial. These are some things that I've done in the past that if I had somebody to guide me along the way, I would do them over. I don't want to say that they're mistakes, but these are some things, some lessons that I've learned that I just want to share with you. When I started in real estate, I wasn't 20 years old, fresh out of college. I was about 50 years old. And the brokerage that I was with in my first year, they had an award ceremony. Now, don't get me wrong, I was with a wonderful brokerage. I learned a lot from that brokerage and my broker. But I'll never forget at the end of the year, I got this award called Rookie of the Year. And don't get me wrong, I was very honored. I mean, I think in my first year, I had about $3 million in gross commissionable sales. That does not mean I earned $3 million, but the sales volume of all the houses combined. And being given the title of Rookie of the Year, I just remember thinking, a rookie? I'm 50 years old. I'm not a rookie in anything. So that's one thing the first thing I want new agents to realize, that you have experience. And even if you are 20 years old, fresh out of college, you have real life experiences that you're bringing in to this game. So you may be just starting out in real estate, but you're bringing your whole self. You're bringing your own sphere of influence. So you're bringing in people that you know. If you have worked in other industries, you're bringing that knowledge in there. So you're bringing everything in together. So the concept of rookie and you're new and you don't know anything, that's all lies. You're really not starting from scratch. You're starting from where you are in this industry, but you're bringing your full self into it. And don't forget that. Don't let anybody ever tell you you're new, you don't know anything. You have real life experience that you're able to bring into real estate. Let's say you purchase your home. You've been through this process. You may not have known what you were signing, but you still had to sign a contract. You still had to give your deposit. You had to go through inspections. So you may not have done it from the sales perspective, but you've gone through the process. And that in itself is where you're starting from. One of the first things I learned, and I actually learned this from my former broker, was to learn the real estate industry. A lot of times agents just get caught up in being an agent, knowing either work with buyers or I work with sellers. You're missing out on the entire industry, which is way more than buying and selling. There's property management, there's investing, working with title companies. There are so many parts of this that make up this game. And nobody likes to think we're the most important person in the transaction, but really for us to get to the closing table, there's so much more involved. There's so many other avenues, even thinking about it as other revenue streams, looking at other revenue streams to make money, in the real estate industry, because it is a full industry. And I think when people just get locked into I'm a sales agent, you're really missing out. Making sure that you keep abreast of what's going on in the industry. There are publications, there are things that our association, as far as New Orleans, that they give us for free, that we can learn about the industry as a whole. So not just knowing about what's going on just in the New Orleans market, but how the national things are affecting us here locally, the changes in the industry. So don't just be focused on, I'm looking for buyers, I'm looking for sellers, and that's all I'm going to do. You're really missing out. And there are going to be times like, hopefully we'll never have another pandemic, that there may be times where you need another revenue stream, but you still want to stay in the real estate industry. Keep your eyes open. So just keep your eyes open, know what's out there. Be a real estate professional, not just a real estate agent. It's okay to stay in your own lane. Your definition of success, number one, it's different than the next real estate agent. So I know sometimes we look at the ones who are just breaking sales records. There's this term that I absolutely hate. It's called this rock star agent. And we try to fit into that mold. And I tried that too. I just thought that was the way to go, just to have volume, volume, volume. And then I had to one day sit back and realize that's never what I got into this for. That's never what I got into this for. That was just creating another job for me. Whereas I really wanted a full life in the real estate agent. So the best advice I can say is you choose your lane. Don't look to the left, don't look to the right, don't look in front of you, don't look behind you. Look at what you're doing and how you can make an impact there. Because everybody has their own definition of success. When you find yours and you're on that lane, that's really where it's at. Another piece of advice I would give is about that messy middle ground. I know everybody celebrates the beginnings. You celebrate, when you pass your licensing exam and you take your headshot for your signs and your cards and all those fun things, or even you get your first client and you do some first showings. And then people want to celebrate the end. The end is when you go to closing and you have the pretty sign at the title company. But nobody talks about that middle ground. There's this book that's called The Messy Middle, and it's by Scott Belsky. And I'm reading it, and it just talked about, and this is not a book about real estate. It is a book for entrepreneurs that just talks about that middle ground and how that's not what's celebrated. We celebrate the beginning, we celebrate the end, but the middle is where the grind is. And the middle is where you start to doubt yourself, to wonder if you're really cut out for real estate or whatever venture you decide to go into. It's that middle ground where you really have to dig in, trust yourself, study, work hard. And if an agent can just stay focused on going through that middle, you'll get to that beautiful end. You'll get to the closing. You'll get to the paycheck that you've worked for. So the best piece of advice is don't get focused on the beginnings. Don't get focused on the ends. Put your grind at that middle part where it's not all glamorous. That's not the part we talk about, but that's where the real work happens. But that's really where you grow. The next thing is that you're always a student in this business. You go through real estate school, you have a few closings, maybe some of them are textbook, but most of them are not. You're always learning, always growing. So always go to conferences, go beyond those 12 hours of CE that you need, go beyond that mandatory class. Look for something that you're interested in, that you want to really start growing in. Meet other people, find a mentor, just really expand your knowledge. And that's also how you'll know what your next pivot is going to be, by just really staying involved, keeping your ears open. Read, like really read. In addition to reading the contracts, read what's going on in the industry. Listen to podcasts, listen to others, just really get involved. I think a key to pulling this all together is to have the right mindset. And when people ask me, how do I keep the right mindset? Once again, it's a journey. I can have, be positive and ready to go on Wednesday. And then on Friday, I'm like, why am I doing this? But I think the key to really keeping the right mindset is knowing what you want out of this, really having defined goals, and always just kind of double checking to make sure that you're on path, just like anything else. When you start out on a diet, you have this goal of losing X number of pounds. You weigh in every now and then. You check your eating. You make adjustments. You say, okay, this isn't working when I add this number of sweets, so let me cut it back, or, whatever it is. You're constantly monitoring your mindset. So I think the same thing in the real estate industry. Look at what your goal is, consistently monitor it, consistently monitor how your mind is affecting you from either moving forward. Your mind could have you moving forward, but your mind could also have you kind of stalled or even moving backwards. So always check in with yourself and just really determine if you're on the right path. I remember when we did our first new construction, and we sold the house and everything was great. And that was a monumental task. I had never built a house from the ground up. So when it was sold, I just immediately went on to the next task. And I never do that. I always now take a minute to sit back and celebrate the wins. I'm not a person who buys expensive wine, but I've started doing that. And I'll keep that little bottle for when I have a win. So for when I do sell that house, or when I do have that next new construction, I take a minute to celebrate it. Because if you don't sit back and recognize where you are, you're never even going to realize how far you've come from where you were before. So take a minute, celebrate the wins. It's all about endurance. It's not about how fast you finish. If someone else is ahead of you or behind you, it's about your own endurance. So celebrate and endure, and I promise you can really get through this industry. Switching to really what makes a great leader in this business. This may sound cliche, but I really believe that what makes a great leader is a great team. So I really try to build a team that has the mindset for growth. I understand if you're starting or, in it, have been in it for a while and you don't know where you want to go, but you know that you want to grow. And I don't mean necessarily just grow as, you sold 5 houses this year, next year you want to sell 10, but that you really have a bigger plan. I want to mentor people that one day in the near future I can look back and I can say, wow, because of the input that I poured into this person, they now have their own brokerage. The input I didn't put into this person, they now are investing or they're developing homes or they started a construction company and they're doing something else in addition to selling homes. So I want people around me that want more from themselves. I can mentor people much better when you have strong, solid goals that you want. You don't need to have all the answers. I sure don't have all the answers, but together we can really just help you get to the next level that you want to go. So I really believe that a good leader listens and encourages and expects people on their team to honestly surpass them. I am so okay with someone growing to the point that's beyond what I've grown. Whether I know it or not, I may not even be on this earth, but I'll just know that this person got a little bit of something from me, that I planted some seeds to be able for them to grow to another level. And I think that's what makes a great leader. I don't want anybody to stay small. Small minds, they don't create great things. And I really want to be around people who are going to create great things in their lifetime. So that's my thought on things I wish I would have been exposed to or taught before I became an agent, because I really feel that the more we know together, the more we grow. And I just truly believe that the pie is big enough. The pie is big enough for all of us to get a piece, and a nice healthy piece, and a nice piece that we can build wealth from. And that's really what Property Quest Realty is all about. Again, my name is Leslie Smith with Property Quest Realty, and I really look forward to having you on another episode.